listening to From the Pink Seats podcast of the State of Louisville Podcast Network. Now, here's your hosts, Jacob Lane, Matt McGavin, and Vince LeCoco.
Folks, welcome into From the Pink Seats podcast. If you don't remember me, I'm Jacob Lane. Happy to be back here on the show. It's been a couple of weeks. I'm trying to figure out if I know how to work this stuff. I got on and my microphone was muted. Matt's like, can't hear you. I'm like, well, everything's the same. Nope, microphone's muted. We are back, and I'm glad to see that me being away from the show doesn't lead to losses. That's great news. So now I can come back. We'll see this week. Maybe that's on the other side, but it's great to be back and talking Louisville football. I'm joined as always by my good friends Matt McGavick, Vincent LeCoco. The gang is all here, and it's been a rough couple of weeks with schedules, man. But it is.
I know
this has been a couple of weeks in the making here. Look at us, we're back.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've been here the whole time.
That's right, man. You are consistent. You are just grinding week in, week out, man. I got to give it to you. Us, me and Matt dropping the ball over here on our attendance. Not perfect students.
I'm just glad that me being away didn't result in a loss.
Well,
though if that meant I had to stay in Key West.
Well, I was going to say, over the course of the amount of time that you have been gone from home base from our show, I think there's been one loss. But we did welcome you back, and we'll see. If there's a loss this week, we might have another story to
I
talk
definitely
about next
had
week.
best quote caption of your tweet, Matt. I know you loved that one.
That was funny.
A little bit of humor around here. At least you got Matt to interact with you. We wish Matt a happy birthday with our favorite pictures, and Matt just liked it. Like, that's just what we get to do.
You gotta come better than that. Like,
I know,
I'm over
Matt's...
here like, haha, Matt, you missed our recording, but happy day.
Matt on social media is like that episode of The Office when Andy Bernard and Daryl are going at it, and Daryl tells him he's one bad text away from being blocked, but I'm one good text away from a high five. So, Matt, I will continue on, and when I get your attention, I'll know it because you'll reply back. But, hey, we are excited to be here talking Louisville football. As I mentioned, it's been a great couple of weeks for the Cards. Coming off another victory, dominant at home. We will get onto the details tonight on From the Pink Seats podcast. Subscribe anywhere you get your shows, including YouTube. Be sure to follow us at Pink Seats Pod, at U of L Report. And, of course, you can find us on the State of Louisville Podcast Network. Thanks to our partners, Kern's Corner. They are the ones who power the network. We appreciate them for all their support. You know the deal. So thank you to Kern's Corner. And fellas, we've got big news. We have got a new presenting sponsor on the show, ladies and gentlemen. Things are glowing up here. It's glow week, and we're glowing up. That's right. Love to see it. We are super excited. Frankfort Avenue Liquors. I'm telling you guys, this is a hidden gem in Louisville. If you've not been there, it is over, of course, off of Frankfort Avenue, right next to the Manhattan Project. And they have one of the coolest things that you can have. They have a liquor store and a bar. What better? You go in, you shop, you get your liquor, and then you buy a beer. Or if you're not sure what you want to drink, you test it at the bar. They've got award-winning mixologists, over 600 whiskeys, man. The selection is ripe over there. Go in, check them out, and tell them that you heard us talking about them right here on From the Pink Seats podcast, because shout out to Frankfort Avenue Liquors, big Louisville fans. And if you remember back in the day, the fellas used to, when they owned a different business, used to take out the goalpost beer bong. And this was a Louisville football goalpost that had two beer spouts on one on either side. So we're trying to get them to bring that back, man. That would be quite the fun.
Is it kind
Was
of
it the one for the Florida State game?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know if it's actually.
Everyone claims to have a
goalpost.
piece of the goalpost from that game.
How cool would that be, though? That would be pretty cool.
Is it kind of like Baskin Robbins too, where there's like 32 flavors, and I can try all 32 flavors, and
Yeah, well,
ice cream today.
You try 32 flavors at Frankfort Avenue Liquors, and you might need to get picked off the floor, my friend.
Sir, you have tested the entire bottle.
Yeah, right. But seriously, though,
and two, you have to Uber.
They've got a great space over there, inside, outside, some really cool spots. It is, like I said, it's a hidden gem. It is really a first class experience in terms of just meeting a buddy for a beer, wanting to drop in and watch a game, or just looking for a place to work in the late afternoon or on the weekend. Can't thank them enough for coming on board here at the late point of the season. But like I said, you all go out and support them. So yeah, that's the housekeeping news. Again, follow us on Twitter at Pink Seats Pod. Let's just real quickly run through the little myriad of topics here. I've got to tell you on my favorite thing from the Louisville football game. I saw this in real time, and then as I was going through our pictures over the weekend from Jared Anderson, state of Louisville, I found the best hype man that I did not know existed for Louisville football. And it really contributes to a storyline that's just taking the world of college sports, and that's the band. When you really think about it, the band is like the most football-ish group of guys and gals that you could really ask for. They are there for the party, for bringing the hype. Whether it's some Mozart, whether it's some Future, some Young Thug, like there's a little bit of everything for everybody. They have a very crucial job. But shout out to the fellas on the field who were celebrating and got caught in the picture with just 3 of the ultimate celebration faces. I don't know if you all have seen this, but we shared it on our Twitter account. And it goes right in line. I don't know if you all saw the tweet of the tuba player with the absolute knockout blow at Texas Southern.
I did see that, yeah.
What do we think about that, man? What if you just got knocked out by a tuba player?
I am of the opinion of if someone's coming up to you and just verbally harassing you and just won't get out of your face, I think you have the right to just sock them in the face a couple times.
Nobody flinched, man. Like they just all kept it moving.
Just kept playing in stride. Good on him. I'm sure that was difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the Mike Tyson quote of, everybody having an opinion now that you have social media and everything. And, it's going to eventually bite somebody in the ass.
Yeah, my man got a couple of hooks and a haymaker, dude, uppercut while dude was still playing his tuba. Did not miss a beat, literally. How about that? How about that, man? Just a great
wah, wah, wah.
I just can't imagine witnessing that. And I would almost it would be one of those moments where you just everybody probably celebrates because again, and videos don't offer you the full story, but there's the meme of the fuck around and find out. Like homie stepped to the wrong tuba player.
Oh, he found out.
He found out the hard way.
Yeah.
How about this though? Okay. I tweeted this out and I really jokingly, want to see where we come up on this one. I don't know if you all saw the video that went viral over the weekend. I think it was from the Philadelphia Eagles game.
Eagles Dallas, yeah, I know.
Eagles Dallas. Okay, all right. And we have pretty common on the sidelines for football guys, and gals to get knocked down by players as tackles go out wide. And we've seen some pretty unfortunate incidents. Even one here locally with a media member who was maybe a little too close to the field. And that's what happened here, right, in this game. And most of these guys, they bounce right back up, man. They're smacking the dudes on the helmets. They're ready to go. But as one of the support staff members for the Eagles is pulled up, a little bit of undergarments is exposed, all right? And these undergarments aren't just your typical, compression shorts or pads or boxers. No, it's just a full red thong, okay? And I don't know, man. This football is a weird sport sometimes. Things happen and people find ways to be more. Look, if it, I could see Nick Saban saying if thongs are going to make you better, then wear a thong, it's classic football.
Well, the Yankees back in the day, Derek Jeter is notorious for being in a slump and putting a thong on to have to, get a hit or whatever to get out of a hitting slump. I would never do it. I would figure something else out. I'd change up my bologna, egg, and cheese sandwich or somewhere I was going to get my gas station food. I don't know if the green thong would be my go-to.
Do thongs belong in football is the real conversation and question of the week.
They used to wear, what's it called? Jock straps or whatever.
Yeah, and those, as listener Keith pointed out on Twitter this week, that is technically a thong. It's a little different in shape and size, but it does the same thing, right? Matt, what's your take on this? Thongs in football?
Listen, if it makes you feel comfortable, I'm okay. I can't even say I'm not going to judge you. I might judge you a little bit, but if it makes you feel comfortable, then do it. I mean,
no way that's comfortable, dog.
I'm telling you, man. Look, those guys on the sideline. Whether it's this season, we've seen the gummy bear guy. Now we got the thong guy. Like we're really seeing these characters come out on the sideline. I'm here for
smelling
more
salt
of this.
guys. Whatever happened to those guys?
Yeah, the smelling. You would strike me as a smelling salt guy. You're intense enough so I could see it, man.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I would much rather wake up and just smash some smelling salts than drink a coffee any day of the week.
This would probably be good content. I've never used smelling salt. What would that be like?
Oh God, that'd be amazing.
I used to my favorite would be crushing 2 of them up and putting them in the little Gatorade cups, shaking it up. I mean, there a bunch of people do this. You shake it up and just fucking go straight.
Just chug it?
No, you don't drink it. You just freaking big old.
Smell it. Okay,
yeah,
all right.
big old whiff of it, and If you ain't coughing, you ain't hitting it right.
Yeah, that's
Because your
raw
eyes will
dogging it
start
right there.
watering and freaking. Oh, it's awesome though. You want to talk about like head rush ready to go? You should definitely try it, Jacob.
Okay, yeah, we
If
might have to get
anybody
some
gives
smelling
you the
salts.
bottle smelling salts, like twist off cap ones, be very cautious because those are the
Okay.
ones that like you know what? Stick your nose all the way up in there and get a good whiff. It smells like roses.
It's extracurriculars of football just are so enticing, man. There's just so many elements of this, from smelling salts to thongs, that just all of these little details make this the greatest game on the planet of Earth, right? I mean, it's every week. I'm finding out more and more how much I love football and how awesome football guys are, even if they wear thong. Like Matt said, judge. I won't judge you, man. If it's aerodynamic and you can get moving and you do your job better, then you do you, man.
It'd be
You
worse
do
getting
you.
whooped by a dude in a thong.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's also like it was in a situation where his homie almost lifted him up by his thong, so he almost got like a super
Almost
wedgie.
ripped
Maybe
it.
that's
Yeah.
maybe that's the Eagles like trick is they're all out there in thongs and everything. Just
No
Jason
wonder they like to tush push so much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude,
right. There it is. They all have thongs on.
makes so much more sense. I mean, it's just cheeks jiggling, man. The ass smash and the tush push is a little bit more enticing when your teammates are wearing thongs, I guess. Like that's just the way it goes in Philly. Let's see what else we got on the. Speaking of birds, how about the Ravens, man? Super Bowl favorites. What do you guys think? I mean, I know that it's not in the point yet where we're seeing teams, really like, because anything can happen. Injuries happen any week, but I feel like the Ravens are proving that defense is legitimate enough to win a championship.
I'm getting tired of everyone calling the Dolphins frauds. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean the Dolphins certainly haven't done themselves any favors because they look bad against Philly. They didn't look that great against the Chiefs. And I if we're gonna pick Super Bowl favorites, I mean, I know it's early. I would say probably the Chiefs got to be up there. I would
Seems like
say
we're
Chiefs
headed towards a
Dolphins.
rematch.
Depends on
Yeah,
if Taylor Swift is
Chiefs
there or not.
Dolphins. I would probably pick as an AFC Championship.
You freeze?
I don't know. I can't tell if he's still just staring at us or if he's frozen, but
Me neither.
I'm so confused on what just happened. My goodness. Yeah, the birds, though. The birds. It's the year of the birds, man. The NFL. That's the way it goes. The Ravens doing their thing. But I don't know, man. The receivers for the Ravens, I just cease
Still
to
not
be
great.
amazed at how they drop footballs.
You know what's crazy is like we've bashed the Ravens receivers probably every week we've been on this show throughout the season, and I somehow managed to have OBJ, Nelson Aguilar, and somebody else who's also on their receiving core on my fantasy team for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate for you.
Hanging out on my bench.
Well, when you look at the Ravens, though, I mean, look at their schedules. They've got some of the best wins in the NFL. I mean, you'd have to kind of pull up Philly's schedule and Kansas City. I know that they've won a couple of really big games, obviously, but they beat Cincinnati, they've beaten Cleveland, both of which, as of today, would be playoff teams in the NFL. They absolutely laid the smackdown on Detroit and Seattle. Again, two teams that would be in the playoffs. Now, I know they played a game closer against Tennessee. They dropped the game against the Colts. That should have been a dub. Refs really, really got in the way there of that one. And then you beat Houston. So I mean, they're not a team that's been beating a bunch of losing teams each week. They've definitely dropped a clunker or two, but both games have been decided by less than 7 points or 7 points or less. So I mean, this is a team that's really couple of bounces from looking at an undefeated schedule. And then when you look at what's left for them, I mean, they still have to play Cleveland and Cincinnati, the Chargers. Then they'll have Jacksonville, San Francisco, Miami, Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh to conclude the season. So we're going to really find out what they are. If they stay healthy, guys, I'm telling you, I mean, that record, I know it's tough, but I mean, I think that they're probably going to walk out with probably only two or three more losses max, unless they
Lamar
have
just
some
needs
injuries.
to eliminate the turnovers, man. I think last show. He's had like a turnover every single game.
Yeah, it seems like he's had a lot more of them this year than he had in the last couple of
Fumbles.
seasons.
Seems like it's more fumbles than anything. And I don't watch the Ravens enough to.
Yeah, and look,
He has had a fair amount of fumbles.
Some of those can be pinpointed on the running back. I mean, it's interesting. You saw this up close and personal. I mean, there was a lot of exchanges that went south when he was at Louisville between Reggie, with Brandon Radcliffe, with all those guys. Jeremy Smith.
You know what they need to go with? When in doubt, let him take the ball.
Yeah, I think that's what they were saying on the broadcast when Justice Hill and he had that exchange that kind of went south. But the running backs that they have, I mean, they've played 52 running backs in the last 3 years. I mean, nobody there can stay healthy. I don't know what it is about Baltimore running backs, but they've got Gus Edwards now, who, let's go Gus. I'm riding the Gus bus on the fantasy side of things, trying to come back from a really, really crappy start. And he has been balling, man. I think he's got like 5 touchdowns the last 2 weeks. That's a legitimate running back.
Well, I'm pretty sure that like the Ravens strength and conditioning coach was voted one of the worst in the league by players.
Yikes.
So,
That's an
yeah,
award I wouldn't
I
want.
think I do remember hearing
or
something
like training
about that.
staff, something associated with the Ravens, and like one of those two departments was voted worst in the league by players, or one of the
Yeah.
worst in the league by players. And I mean, to me, you got all these running backs getting hurt, and key players getting hurt all the time. That's like ground zero of where I would focus my point of attack. You might want to flip that spot, but I mean, that's just me. I'm not a GM. What do I know?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, all right. Final 3 topics. I'm going to give you all the choice here. Do we want to talk a little Purdue, Michigan, maybe some little ties in the scandal of the signs? Do we want to talk some interesting comments by a former player that would be indicative of some funny business behind the scenes as a coaching staff, a previous staff, or do we want to talk about JoJo Stone? Where do we want to go here with the final quick hit before we jump into the Virginia Tech game?
Like JoJo.
All right, let's talk JoJo.
I don't know about you. I feel like you have JoJo stuff just at the hip, ready to roll.
We don't talk a ton about recruiting in season simply because we keep it pretty, tight on game recaps and game previews and big news and funny business like band members knocking out, fans that are trying to step. But JoJo Stone, man, that's a huge piece to the 2024 recruiting class that's quietly kind of coming together right before our eyes. I mean, I know it's been a while since Louisville's gotten a commitment, but JoJo Stone, 4-star receiver. Matt, what are we getting here with that big commitment for the Cards?
This is definitely someone who specializes on running after the catch, or like specializing kind of in space. I did a kind of a breakdown on him after he committed. It kind of caught me off guard because I didn't expect him to commit on the visit. I thought he would maybe commit.
That's pretty cool. I love that.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah. But no, this is someone where like he is a blue chip recruit simply because of how deadly he is with the ball in his hands, whether he comes out of the backfield, whether he's in the slot, whether he's going on a wide receiver screen. He has a knack for kind of feeling out how to attack the defense after he's got the ball in his hand and kind of navigating his way upfield, whether it's a really good first step. He gets to his top gear in a hurry. His acceleration might be the thing that stood out to me the most, on top of him being able to bob and weave his way through traffic up the field. If there is any cause for concern, he's not a super developed wide receiver per se. Like he doesn't run a super diverse route tree, and his route running was kind of He does run really good curl routes and shows good concentration on deep shots, but like he'll certainly need to be coached up and developed as it pertains to like becoming like an intermediate or downfield threat, excuse me. But as it pertains to like in the short area of the field and pure just yards after catch ability, he's a bona fide playmaker, and just that ability in and of itself is more than enough to merit him being a blue chip recruit.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you look at the skill position, since Jeff Promise got here, they have Louisville's really taken care of business, from both the portal side of things and, the incoming freshmen this past year with guys like Kataris Hicks, Jaleel McClain, William Fowles, obviously Jamari Thrash, Kevin Coleman have been massive additions. Jadon, I always say Jadon. I don't know why I cannot pronounce the name Jaden. It is simply the easiest name to say, but I have convinced myself that I can't ever pronounce it correctly. And then Jimmy Callaway. So, I mean, they have brought in skill position players. And when you're looking at the top of this class, look, it doesn't have the star power that it had a year ago with guys like Pierce Clarkson and Madden Sanker, but JoJo Stone, top 300 player in the country, according to 247 Sports. Dylan Messman, the tight end for Michigan, top 400. And Isaac Brown, a 4-star running back. Duke Watson, another running back. Then you have Deuce Adams, and you have Xavier Porter, Fred Johnson, Sean Boykin from Radcliffe. I mean, this class is really starting to round itself out. And now with some of the new rules in college football where you can go 1-for-1 and you're not on a scholarship pitch anymore, they can add based off of who deflects this offseason. So we'll likely see the portal be used again. There are some key positions where Louisville loses depth. They lose quality veteran starters that have been there. And we'll see how Jeff Brom attacks the quarterback position, the left tackle position, some of these key spots where they can keep the momentum rolling into next year. And you're not risking taking a step back. So it's great to see the recruiting coming along. I mean, it's been really quiet. It really has been. And some of the recruits early on, now they have really kind of bumped up the charts towards the back end. There were several guys who were not in the top, 1,800 in the country when they committed. But now Louisville's, guys at the bottom have started to develop and have big seasons and kind of shown that, they are worth, being one of those guys that you get on early compared to, some of the bigger names. So great to see overall. That's big. And it really highlights an incredible weekend. So let's just jump into it. Louisville, Virginia Tech. It's a game that we really didn't know what to expect going into it because Virginia Tech had come in playing so well, blowing teams out, kind of proving that they weren't what they were when they started the season. And then bam, Louisville happens, 34-3. Let's go. What do we think? We want to just jump right into Vince's game notes. What we got for this game, because I mean, it's just one of those where the physicality, the dominance is what you want from your Louisville football team. It was just a straight teeth kicking from the first second that special teams whistle blew on the kickoff.
It's time to get down to brass tacks. It's Vince's game notes with Vincent Lococo.
Well, for me, obviously, it starts with Isaac in his incredible game. I think Presley called it last week, so you got to give Presley his flowers for that. Talking about that, the offensive line really just dominated the point of attack. It was nice to see considering all the injury factors that was going in throughout the week and everything. But just them being able to establish that point on the other side of the line of scrimmage, and Isaac as well was just getting his legs up and driving through extra contact. Matt, I asked you for that yards after contact stat, and I didn't even put it on my notes. But, for me, his yards after contact was the story of everything. And that's something.
It was 89, by the way.
89. But that's something that a lot of, NFL scouts and stuff will look at is, okay, well, obviously it takes more than one guy to bring him down. But whenever I was talking about injuries earlier, the main one for me, and Jeff talked about it as well during the press conference, was Brian Hudson. Now, Matt, what exactly is wrong with Brian? Has he said anything? Because
nothing's wrong with Brian is what Brian would tell you.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
it's awesome. I love it.
Brom alluded a few weeks ago that he was hurt, and he's never specified what he was hurt with. And honestly, if I was none the wiser, I would think he was fully healthy by the way he's been playing, performing, warming up.
Chop his leg off. Is that our
Exactly.
clue? It's a leg injury, maybe? I don't know. Brom said leg. He could have said arm. He could have said fingers.
Well, seeing just the fact that he's not practicing all throughout the week, and he was talking about him getting, just these minimal walkthrough reps and stuff. We used to do that with Boosie Whitlow in 2019, and it's something that can definitely be very beneficial if you have these older players that know the role, know what they're supposed to be doing. But it's also very beneficial to your backups because your backups are now getting a lot more reps. Your backup center is getting reps. And that bumps up, the third string center getting more reps. So it kind of all works out for everyone. Brian Hudson, you're a tough son of a bitch. And he also made the little video look sick as well. That was pretty cool. We'll get to that later on, though.
Yeah, some acting. How about that? We got some real actors on this team this year. The center and the quarterback are like the Peyton Manning and Jeff Saturday of Louisville, I swear.
Right. Speaking of the quarterback, his low pass attempts this past week, which I think it's awesome. We've been preaching on the show for a while. We have three really good running backs. Why we don't? We have been utilizing Jawar. We just now got to see, Isaac whenever he steps up and decides to be that main back. Only due time for Maurice Turner to get that opportunity and have his explosive breakout game. But keeping Jack down to minimal passing attempts and allowing for him to run the offense consistently Just get the ball in the hands of your playmakers and let them go to work. We're not looking for Superman ball. We don't need him to be Tom Brady. I know preseason I was like, man, that'd be awesome if he had like a Joe Burrow type season. Well, guess what? We're not here, and I just need him to run the damn offense. And he did. He did that perfectly last weekend. So, I mean, he's feeding the studs, and it's your Coach Petrino, Coach Brom, 101 stuff, and I expect him to obviously get guys that can push the ball downfield more, but this is exactly what Jeff wanted out of Jack. Moving on to the defense, we'll talk about the importance of the defensive line. The D line basically won, in my opinion, the game for us because it all starts, up front with the offense and the defensive line, and the fact that they can establish pressure and get their hands on the guys, and a lot like the offensive line, establish a point of attack on the offensive side of the ball. It's huge, and they're scheming things up well, and everybody's doing their job. Nobody's trying to play hero ball saying, hey, I can shoot this gap right here, I'm confident. No, they're all running their stunts, and everything is working out exactly how the defense is supposed to be played. Which I've said it before, is I never thought that the Jeff Brom defense and the defensive line would be the most exciting thing about his football team, which is cool to say. And who knows? I don't know if this is going to be the future of Louisville football, where we're talking about defensive line, but hell, if it is, then I'm here for it, because we'll win a lot more football games that way, because defense will always win you championships.
I think it speaks volumes to the evolution of Jeff Brom as a head coach. I mean, that was a little bit of a talking point, something that was kind of brought up in the preseason and bits of the offseason. Okay, we know what Jeff Brom is known for. He's known for, high flying offenses, passing the ball. But, when we had opportunities to chat with Brom over the offseason, he talked about how he's kind of evolved as he's gone from Conference USA to the Big Ten, and now it's the ACC, how he's had to kind of, embrace the run a little bit and kind of adjust his play style and play calling accordingly, like based on what he has at his disposal, based on who he's facing in front of him, based on what's working, based on what's not working, and not just pass the ball some more. And throughout the last couple of weeks, when after seeing how his prototypical like Jeff Brom ball of just throwing it like 50 times didn't work against Pitt, it speaks a lot that he and his staff have kind of reined in a little bit back and taken a more low risk, taking a more conservative approach, and taking what they have and doing what they do well, which is right now run the ball and then execute in the front seven. And they've accepted it. They're not trying to do anything else but utilize these two things, and we are seeing the fruits of their labor so far. I mean, the college football playoff rankings came out like an hour and a half ago, and they're up to number 11 in the country. I mean, I didn't see this coming a lot. If anyone who said they saw this coming was just being hopeful, but we legitimately are in a situation where Louisville is not only in the driver's seat to reach Charlotte, though if they win out the regular season, take down Florida State in the ACC and the ACC championship, maybe have some chaos happen around the college football landscape, Louisville could be in the mix for a college football playoff berth in year one. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm not saying it's not going to happen. And that is partially because of how Jeff Brom has adapted to his surroundings and what he has.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, bro. It's wild to me. It's awesome to see this defense playing and hitting on all cylinders and just flying around with the football. There's constantly 2-3 guys at the point of attack. I mean, Virginia Tech opened up with a screen that looked to be like a busted play, in my opinion, because, I mean, they had a running back going out for a swing route and running a running back for a screen, and it just completely triggered one of our the running back flaring out triggered one of our safeties, and it just made for a busted play for their end. But there's still 2 and 3 guys around the football at all times. Where it seemed like Virginia Tech had their most success was spreading us out. And this is kind of what worries me whenever we play other teams, is teams that have the capability of spreading our defense out, because they do have a passing threat and they can also run it like right up the gut. And that's where, isolation ball, maybe TJ Quinn and guys shooting gaps too much might bite us in the butt. But other than that, I mean, you can't not be happy with the performance that the guys had on Saturday. Now they just need to carry it over into Thursday's short preparation week. And, it's a tough thing to do, but Jeff Brom and his staff are more than capable of doing it.
Yeah, one of the best runs of the day from Virginia Tech. I actually was just looking at. I got video in that from where we were sitting, and part of the reason we saw early some of their struggles is these defensive ends. They take such wide angles, and it allows these holes to open up between the tackles where they're able to make a play. And then if you just can hit a hole, make one guy miss, it's a completely different story.
Yeah. So if they're in a 2-by-2 situation, an ace set where guys are already spread out, that's going to be, DNs coming up field like you're talking about, Jacob. That's going to suck. That's where we're going to get hit for, a 25-yard rush or possibly a, 40-yard rush that's for 6.
Exactly right. And we saw some of that early in the season against Georgia Tech with Travion Cooley. We've seen some of that in other games as well. And it definitely is a cause for concern when you're talking about some of the biggest games that still lie ahead on the schedule for them. But in this game, I mean, they truly, like I mentioned, I mean, they just came out and wanted to kick the teeth into Virginia Tech. I mean, the first possession of the game, I believe they have a sack on the second play. You talk about that first play is a screen pass that goes nowhere. I mean, they really proved really quickly defensively that they were going to be able to get off the field. And then offensively, they have 3 drives in the first half. I mean, Jeff Brom talked about this in his press conference this week. That just almost like never happens. And when it does, you typically find yourselves in a really, really bad situation. Thankfully, Louisville wasn't in that spot because the defense was playing well, but they go on the first drive, 9 plays, on the second drive, 6 plays, and on the third drive, in which they ultimately missed that 20-something yard field goal, they go 11 plays. So really controlled this game with the running attack, specifically with the combination of Jawar Jordan and Isaac Ariando. And they also threw some Jack runs in there, man. I mean, Jack had a couple of nice plays. It wasn't anything to, that it would, show up on a depth.
I trust him to get 6. I trust him to get 6 to 8 if you needed him to.
Yeah, exactly. And
I'm not saying let's go out here and I think we ran like a freaking draw play or whatever like 2 or 3 weeks ago, if y'all remember that.
Yeah.
But none of that.
No. Exactly, man. That's exactly what I was just going to say. Like at the fourth, I think they went for it on 4th down, maybe in the first drive or second drive. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, if you just come out and you don't do anything but run the ball right down to I formation with Dwayne Martin leading the way, you're out of your mind.
Speaking of Dwayne Martin, man, that dude is coming with the hammer every single time. I mean, I would trust myself running behind Dwayne Martin, holding the football up in the air. Because, I mean, he's gonna knock somebody over. He is a bull. So is Nate back there. If you watch Nate on Jawar's touchdown run, I mean, shoot, all the tight ends, they're blocking really well. It's turning into one of those positions where they might not be catching a lot of balls, but they're sure as hell making their impact felt in the blocking game.
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting. I think I texted you about this early in the first quarter. And Presley and I both noticed that they were lining up 2 tight ends in slot positions. They were doing some really interesting things with those guys out there. Just, I feel like Jeff's like, look, they're not the greatest, but we're just going to do weird stuff, and you got to just guess and figure out what we're doing with it.
It's not like they're incapable guys.
No,
like,
for sure.
Run their routes well. They catch the football. They're just not world beaters. They're good tight ends.
Yeah.
I tell you what, though, I would like to see Joey Gatewood get more involved in like the passing game.
Yeah, man.
Like if when it comes to like the passing aspect of a Brom offense, I mean, we all see how much like a quality like tight end or like a reliable or consistent pass catching tight end can like elevate that aspect of the game. I mean, just look what Payne Durham did at Purdue, and like Joey Gatewood has been like the only semi-consistent aspects passing wise from the tight end room. Like, not trying to poo-poo all over the other guys, but I mean, like, they're Satterfield guys. They're more acclimated to blocking, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like, if Louisville's gonna have packages where like they're exclusively throwing the ball, I think Gatewood needs to get more run.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for the tight end in motion. Joey Gatewood bomb downfield.
Jeff, it's coming at some point.
Give it to me, Jeff. Actually,
at some point.
Nope. Save it for the week. You know what we said before.
Yeah, that's right.
I need a Joey
Pee-wee.
Gatewood touchdown pass.
That's right. Well, and I mean, 23, almost 24 yards a catch for him on the season. He's only got 3 for 70, but they've all been big plays down the field. They tried the running play with him this week. That didn't go anywhere. But that is definitely something that I would like to see Louisville get more involved with. And really the other kind of critique, I don't really know the right way to phrase this because it's not necessarily hurt them, but Louisville is going to, in the next 4 weeks, be tested and have the run game limited or shut down. We're going to see that again at some point. I don't know against who. I don't know when that happens. And when that does, we're going to have to see Jack Plummer be able to distribute the ball to multiple guys. He's going to, because defenses are going to be good enough with enough dudes at some point in the season to shut down or limit your best players. So we need to see guys like Isaac Gariendo, Chris Bell, Amari Huggins, Bruce. I will continue to ride this train until it parks in the station. We've got to have all the horses running the race. Like all of these guys have got to be able to come out and have big games. And we saw, the ball was spread around quite a bit this week. I mean, I think there was 9 guys that caught a pass. Including, your biggest plays of the game through the passing game came from Jaden Thompson, who had the 37-yard touchdown, and then Chris Bell, who had a couple of really nice plays down the field.
And a hit stick on
Oh, man.
Oh, my God, that was beautiful.
I turned to Max Martin. I said that was Chris Bell. That was 0, the wide receiver that just went. In our time, you would have had, I think there's 2 or 3 wide receivers that would have went down and made that hit. Devontae Pete, Gio. I don't know if you guys
remember. Oh, yeah. He played in the NFL for a couple of years. Yeah.
Gio would probably fly down there, made that. Yeah. But I mean, bro, that was balls to the wall. Just
awesome. Yeah, man. The special teams, I mean, it was really like just them flying. Like they're taking so much pride in every element of the game right now and how they play, how they finish. And when you're a team that's coming out of the ACC, which has been down the last couple of years, and you already kind of have this bias of like, who is Louisville? What have they done for me lately? Like they're not a national player or anything. You got to win games convincingly to get attention and to get some of that momentum. And now we've seen over the last 2 weeks. I mean, I don't have the exact score of the Duke game, but I mean, they 34 points to just 3. They shut out Duke and score a decent amount of points. Yeah. So over the last couple of weeks, they've really been putting up just gaudy numbers and doing so defensively. And then from an offensive standpoint, they're just leaning into the run game. But we're going to have to see them Jack is going to have to show that in key moments, in a 3rd down and long, in a, down by 3, down by 7, less than 5 minutes to go, Jack is still going to have to show us he can make plays for this team to win the big games, right? I mean, there's still some really quality games left in Miami, Kentucky, and then potentially an ACC championship and beyond. So for this team, we're getting closer. We talked about this team can win in multiple ways. Presley and I really had this conversation in the show we did after Duke about how Louisville is a unique team because they're not doing something gimmicky. Like this is a team that can win with a defensive game. They can lean into the running the football. They can absolutely blow up the passing game if Jamari and Kevin Coleman have games like they did to start the season. They're a dangerous team, but they just got to keep on working, keep on rounding into form. And ultimately, one of the things that's going to define that is injuries. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this here on the other side of the break when we come back to preview this game on Thursday night against Virginia. But Louisville's injuries are starting to mount up. Guys are playing, but they are mounting up. Jeff Brom had some not so interesting comments, but you know how I feel about what Jeff Brom says. You got to dig deep into the roots of what he's talking about to understand it. So we'll talk about that. But before we do talk about that, fellas, I'd be remiss if we did not end the recap of the Virginia Tech game with a sack update, Jacob's sack update, because we got movement, right? We got some real movement here. The race is starting to develop. There are, the quantity is certainly not high for a lot of guys, but a lot of fellas are getting involved here. We're really starting to throw the sack party and invite a lot of our friends. And that's really exciting when you're talking about football and playing good defense. So here we are this week for Louisville football. A lot of fun, a lot of sacks to go around. We got guys entering the race. We got guys building on their resume. So let's start with the Welcome Back Club this week, fellas. Ramon Purier, keeping that race alive. He wants it to be a 3-headed race, not a 2-headed race. He gets his 3rd sack of the season. And then our guy, Mason Reiger, man, absolutely will not be stopped. He wants a sack per game. Only one game that he's played in this season without a sack. And if he did play in every game this year, fellas, that it would be a very, very interesting race at the top. But Mason doing his job to make it closer. He's got 4 right behind Ashton with 8.5. And then this week, we got guys entering the race. Again, I want everyone in the party. I want the whole defense to come into the party with a sack here this season. And here we go. Ben Perry gets his first sack of the season. Stephen Herron, it felt like he had 7 at this point. I mean, he has been right there so many times. He gets a half sack. All right. We'll let him in with a half sack, man. We're not judging around here. Half sack, come on in. That's right, man. He's in the race. And then TJ Quinn, our guy, he said, I'll get an interception and I'll get a half sack and a couple of tackles for loss. That's what I'm talking about when you're talking about the MVP through the defense season so far. TJ Quinn just adding to that resume there, looking to be
compared to his pops. That had to have been really cool for him post game.
Yeah. I mean, I love these legacy players. I mean, it's just
Josh Minkins and man.
Yeah, it's just really cool to see. I love to see that. Closing thoughts before we finally close the book. Matt didn't get to close the book. We closed the book. Any final thoughts on the Virginia Tech victory, fellas, before we get to a break?
It's just nice to see them continuing to win with a brand of football that is not gimmicky, that is a brand of football that can, carry from game to game and can honestly take down a lot of opponents that they can face.
I hope we're all in the same mindset of, and this was preached to me every year I ever played football, was just staying right in the middle. Can't get too high, can't get too low. 24-hour mindset is a great win, and just stay in the middle. Because I feel like as soon as I get too excited, we'll have a hiccup like Pitt, and I'll get disappointed and heartbroken and hurt.
Yeah. I mean,
staying right here, man.
That feels like the natural kind of thing to do. I don't think anybody could blame you there. But last thing, I gotta say, man, we got to talk about this North Carolina bias. Really the Carolina bias. I'm just pissed off at this, man, because I'm tired of guys just getting robbed in broad daylight for awards and acknowledgement that they deserve to have. I get that Clemson upset Notre Dame, but what I see when I look at what the ACC did from a Players of the Week standpoint in Week 10, we were just ready to get the Dabo Glizzy and go crazy, man. Like, that's what they wanted. Nothing more, nothing less. 4 Clemson players named Players of the Week, including Phil Maffa.
All right, E-Mac, we get it. You put a word in, bud.
Dabo pressed the buttons, called the right people, and said, "You better put us in those."
Put them in.
Listen, I voted for Isaac.
Good for you. I'm here for it. I trust you, man. I'm all in on it. It's ridiculous.
What would Dabo say? Dabo would say something along the lines of,
"It's not about
we're on the no. He would say we're on the Lord's first team All ACC."
That's right. That's exactly right, man. But just
first team All God.
First team All God. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's straight robbery out here, man. All right. We'll take a quick break. On the other side, we'll come back and we will talk about Virginia. We continue on in the state of Virginia, looking for complete land dominance. We will own that state. But with that being the case this week, no better time than now to get in on the action with sports betting now that it's officially live in Kentucky. Sports betting sites are offering new bettors tons of awesome bonuses to get started. We've made it super easy to put all of our favorite promos into one list for you. Check out all our best sportsbook promos at bit.ly/State of Louisville so you can maximize your first bets. Each time you sign up for one of the promotions, you're directly supporting our show, which allows us to do bigger and better things. So keep doing that. If you're looking to sign up for any new sports books in the state of Kentucky, head over to bit.ly/State of Louisville for our top offers. That's bit.ly/State of Louisville. Offers are only available for new customers who are 18 plus, 21 plus select sports books, and must be physically present in Kentucky. Please gamble responsibly. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. As always, I am currently sipping on some Mr. and Mrs. Bourbon. Mr. and Mrs., as you might know, is the official brand of Louisville legend Russ Smith. But what you might not know is that Mr. and Mrs. is becoming a national and global brand, shaking things up in the bourbon industry. Like basketball, bourbon has long been a passion for Russ, dating back to his college days. He studied and learned under some of the more renowned master distillers in the area. Mr. and Mrs. is more than a passion project. It's the culmination of a decade of painstaking work. Mr. and Mrs. is for everyone, from a more traditional 90 proof to a cask strength that's smooth. Be among the first to try Mr. and Mrs., the official bourbon of the state of Louisville, and from the Pink Seats podcast. On shelves anywhere you find your liquors or online at mrandmrsbourbon.com. Well, fresh off the presses, Matt, you mentioned it. Louisville football is number 11 in the college football playoff, moving up 2 spots. And when you look at the ratings, let me pull this up real quick because I was looking at this earlier, but they're really kind of like in this second, like the head of the second tier, right? Like I know, but when you're looking at it, the top kind of 10 teams in college football are pretty much what you would expect. And they're the big players that are there just about every year. And those are probably the 10 that most people kind of assume are most likely to end up in that Final Four. But then you look at like 11 through 20, and Louisville is really like the voters are saying here what there is that Louisville is the best of that second group, in my opinion, that Louisville would beat Oregon State, Tennessee, Missouri, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Oklahoma, Utah, LSU, Notre Dame on neutral fields. Like that's just how that would go. I'm just curious on your all's take. Like, where do you kind of see, Presley and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, where do you all see Louisville in the landscape nationally? Like, do you think Louisville is one of the best teams in the country? I mean, obviously I know they're 11th for a reason, but, or do you kind of feel like they're the pretender in a group of a bunch of contenders, you know, in terms of their full body of work?
I think they certainly have a chance to emerge as a potential contender, because I'm looking at the college football playoff top 10 right now, and there's a couple teams ahead of them who, quite frankly, have not played anyone. I mean, the first one that comes to mind, Michigan. I'm not saying Michigan's bad. Michigan is very good. They are full of talent. They've not played a single damn team. Oregon, 8-1. They also have not played anyone worth a damn. And the one team that did play worth a damn, they got beat. So we'll see how that shakes out. Penn State, the first time they played a real team, they couldn't do anything at all. And they play Michigan this weekend. So we'll see who's the bigger fraud. Now, I say that all in tongue in cheek. Both are very good teams. Just Penn State and Michigan fans don't come after me.
How much fun is this, though, that we get to have this conversation
Michigan
again?
fans have other things that they have.
Yeah, right.
That is very true.
Advocates the least of their word.
Yeah, that is true. But in that kind of group of one loss team, the two teams who I think, well, three probably, who I think do belong in that like tier with Louisville are Texas, Alabama, and Ole Miss. Because I've watched a fair amount of Texas and Alabama because they typically play in some of the bigger games week in and week out because, you know, TV loves the Blue Bloods. It is what it is. But I think Texas is really good. They certainly looked pretty good this past week, and even without Quinn Ewers. Alabama is really starting to hit their stride after like suffering that loss to Texas earlier. Ole Miss, I mean, Lane Kiffin's got them rolling. They've got a big game this weekend. They play Georgia, right?
I think that's right. It's like a thing you find out on Friday when you go to put your bets in. Like, let's see teams.
Like, I'm almost certain they play Georgia. They've got a big game this weekend, but they're really good. I do think those three, and plus Louisville, and Louisville's proven that they can compete with some of the better teams in college football because they've already done it. I mean, they've beat Notre Dame, who, they're at the bottom of the top 25 now, but they're still a good team. They beat a then ranked Duke, who is kind of getting hit with injuries at the worst time, and they've beaten a handful of other teams who are like, you know, FPI top 50, you know, things, metrics of that nature. They're one of like, maybe, I think I saw the stat earlier, they're one of 6 or 7 teams who have beaten like 4 FPI top 50 teams or something like that. Like they certainly belong in the conversation of like teams who legitimately have a chance to crack the Final Four. Will it actually happen? I doubt it, because Florida State is really good.
Yeah.
And they'll have to get through Florida State to even have a chance to get in the top 4. But to say that they even have a chance to get there, and it's the first week into November, is insane.
Pac-12 football is not real. So Oregon, Washington, you're out. Get out of here. Not worried about you. Florida State. Nah, Mike Norvell. Whatever. I think we can beat you. Texas. Texas worries me. Alabama worries me. Ole Miss is undisciplined, and I think we can beat Penn State. That's my opinion.
All right,
What
man.
about Georgia?
We just need a weekly
Yeah,
Vince's
well,
college
I
football
noticed
update.
I'd left Ohio State.
Georgia and Ohio State out of there, yeah.
Very
Pac-12 football
convenient.
is not real though. They don't. That's
Those teams are pretty good.
Yeah, very convenient. But no, I mean, it really would be interesting. I saw the tweet from, I believe, from Ross Dellinger that would be, the hypothetical of what a 12-team playoff would look like, and Louisville would open up as an
At
11
Oregon.
seed at Oregon. So, I mean, that's a game where if you're
That'd be
what can Louisville's defense do against an offense that could put up theoretically, 50, 60 points in a given week? That's the real test. Like, it'll be really interesting to see against the Miamis, the Kentuckys, and then, hopefully, fingers crossed, the potential game against a Florida State, whoever else, North Carolina, whatever it looks like, in an ACC championship. I don't know, man. It's all that's really interesting. I'm fascinated. I'm much more tapped into college football from top to bottom than I ever have been, because this is fun. Like, we're not, it doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel like the Alabamas and the Michigans and the Ohio States are on another planet playing a different game that we have not figured out quite yet. Right. Like it just always has felt over the last few years that in terms of like the national relevance, it's kind of like how we feel with basketball right now. Like, Louisville's just nowhere to be included. And so for this, it feels fun to have these conversations and say, could Louisville beat Oregon? And what would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's clear favorites to like actually get into the Final Four, but like a lot of the top 5 teams, like top 10 teams, honestly, have had periods where they've looked vulnerable. I mean, Ohio State, they really struggled to open up the year. I mean, Georgia had kind of looked vulnerable earlier in the season, and they kind of needed Missouri to piss down their leg to come out with a win. Michigan played nobody. Florida State's had a couple close scares. Washington before last week against USC was kind of cutting it close. Oregon played nobody. Texas is good. Alabama also good. I'm with you. I'm with you there, Vince. Texas and Alabama scared me.
I mean, Texas played Kansas State, close for a good chunk of that game, did they not, this past week? So I mean, it's not
Kansas
as if
State's
they're
good too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally understand that, but in terms of the rankings, Louisville theoretically is better than them, and they gave Texas all they wanted. So I don't know. I think that
I'd rather face Michigan than Texas.
Yeah. Well, one week season, right? Let's get our minds around that here. I know it's a lot of fun to talk about, but let's get back.
Coach Betty used to say all these people deciding numbers are just a bunch of fat guys eating donuts, sitting behind a computer. They never played a down of football in their life. In this instance, a lot of these guys did play a down of football, so it doesn't really, imply there, but you get the message.
Yeah, for sure. So Virginia this week, short week. If you rewind back to the beginning of the season, both Vince and I brought up the game against Virginia, I believe, or maybe it was Matt. I don't know. One of you two and me. Somebody said was right. Yeah, that this was a game to watch because it was going to be Louisville coming in on a short week after a game against Virginia Tech. I know I said it for sure. I believe that I said that, and I still am bringing this up as a reason to be just a little bit not worried, but just remember, weird things can happen on a Thursday night. Louisville is coming in with injuries. Virginia is too. And so that's kind of the interesting caveat here in this game. Both teams banged up. If you're not banged up at this point, you're not playing football. But injuries are something to watch on a game where you had so many guys who were either out or game time decisions leading into Virginia Tech. And this week, Jeff Brom was asked about it. And in true Jeff Brom form, he said nothing, like just nothing. Some hot garbage when it came to quotes. But if you read in between it, like I always tell you all, there's nuggets in there, okay? Jeff Brom, he always says nothing, but he says a lot. So this week, he says, going to try and continue to get them healthy. Yep, let's do it. I don't think anything otherwise. He said, when that will happen with a few, I'm not sure. Some are day-to-day, some are longer. I think we got out of this game for the most part as healthy as we could for the circumstance. A lot of Yep, they certainly did, right? Jaws didn't have to play for a chunk of this game because Guriendo was carrying the squad. Brian Hudson, Willie Tyler. I didn't notice either of them really coming out of the game, but I mean, Louisville has shown that Michael Gonzalez can slide over and play that left tackle spot. So they've developed depth, and it's allowed them to not have to worry about some of that. And he alluded to that. He said a lot of new people stepped in who played well, and they're continuing to be healthy. Right. So guys stepped in, they're healthy, they didn't get injured. He said every day is valuable. The guys who didn't play want to get out on the field. Some are suffering some pretty good nicks and bruises, maybe more than that. So I'm reading that there are some guys who are pretty banged up. Like we might have, a pretty serious injury, whether it be to Jamari or Jarvis. Like we really don't know. This team really plays their cards close to the vest, but we do know that some guys are banged up. Likely will not see some guys Thursday night. That injury list very much could grow. Hopefully it's not like the Virginia game in 2020, where if you remember, like an hour before the game, Cam Teague is like, and half the roster is not playing in this game. And we're just like,
yeah. That was fun to be a part of.
Yeah, right. It was like 40
waking
guys
up on Saturday and, walking to the stadium and you get picked up by the trainer and he throws you in the bus. He's like, yeah, it's like half the team's out.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the? I haven't talked to anybody yet.
Yeah, man. That's we were just a couple of guys away from you playing, man. I mean, that's how low things got there with some of those injuries. But now we just hope that this week we don't see that list grow. And just again to refresh your memory, Jarvis Brownlee, Jamari Thrash obviously did not play last week. Again, we don't know as to what those injuries are. We know that Jarvis Brownlee went out against Duke. I believe came back in against Duke for a little bit there at the end, but ultimately was pretty banged up. And then Jaws, Brian Hudson, Willie Tyler were guys that were questionable, but ultimately played in that game on Saturday. So injuries stacking up for Louisville. But on the other side, as we jump into this game with Virginia, Glow Night, very interesting promotion. I'm here for these kind of unique events that are not a blackout or a whiteout or a red out. Yeah. So what, you got a good Glow story?
No,
you big rave fans?
No, okay. For one, the glow-in-the-dark skeleton cleats, I don't know if you guys remember those. Whenever we did those, like 2016 or 17, those were some of the best cleats out there. It was around Halloween. We had like a Halloween-ish game, and we wore those. Those were cool. I hate glow-in-the-dark uniforms. It makes no sense. None.
Why?
We play under lights.
That's true.
It makes no sense. What do we like?
I'm hoping
I mean, it's great to sell. I get why we're doing it for like jersey sales and sell stuff and marketing. It looks Taurus and then put together one of the sickest videos.
Yeah.
Throwing John L in there.
I'm sure they're going to do something pre-game to like really show them off.
Yeah. And the fans are
I hope we don't cut the lights. I hate that.
Oh my
that's one of my least
you know damn well that's coming.
Oh my gosh. All right. Let's look cool. Yeah, this is a total Vince take right here. I am here for it. I was just getting ready to say, a couple of years ago, there was a picture that surfaced of the stadium completely red, like with red lights that like turned it into like an oven type looking feel. I need that to happen on Thursday night. Lou City, one of the coolest things they do is turn that stadium purple with the lights. And they have these insane light shows. Like I need all of it. I need it all. The glow in the dark jerseys, I'm with you. I didn't think about that. There's going to be a lot of light. We're not really going to be glowing, but shout out to the fans, right? They are running with this. This is what makes Louisville so much fun and why Louisville football is like all the like why you have to get season tickets. Like you have to get season tickets and be a part of this each week. Fans on Twitter just like, hey, I'll buy 1,000 glow sticks. Oh, you're buying 1,000? I'll buy 2,000. We'll get section 216, section 211, section 115. We're good. Let's go glow sticks.
That reminds me of in 2014 when I was still a student at Louisville, and they were hosting Florida State, and this was after the Jameis Winston crab thing. At Publix came out.
Yeah.
So what I did is that I went down to Joe's Crab Shack and I bought like an entire box of crab bibs, and I got them for the student section.
Look at you,
That's
man.
gold. That's gold. Right
that's
there.
Before the professional NU came out, man. That's a great story. See, we need some of that in the stadium again, Matt. Like we need you to come back for one game. Like no media, just shirtless Matt, painted up like Gary the Redbird.
I am not going shirtless
bigger
again.
brother. Like we need you to be Matt the Redbird with Gary the Redbird again. We need that kind of vibe. But no, that's a great story. And Vince, also, I'm with you, man. The glow is kind of an interesting take, but I'm here for just something different. We've been doing these
Yeah,
red out, blue outs, green outs, yellow outs. Like,
see,
let's
I
do
would
something.
prefer like a red out. You mentioned the red glow in the stadium. Like, I think that would look sick.
Yeah.
Instead of like blacking out the stadium,
Yeah.
everybody wave your glow sticks around.
If
But
they
I mean,
do it
hey,
right, it could look cool.
It could look cool. What do
Yeah.
I
It's
know?
it's
I'm not
memorable.
marketing.
That's for sure.
No, but Vince is the guy. Like, again, I told this story, I think, to my wife this week. Like, I saw Vince at the game on Saturday. Vince is just business. He doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to chit chat with you. He's not there to socialize. He is there to watch football. Like, I'm like,
What else are you there
I know.
for? What are
Look,
you there for?
It's a
not a
party.
party on the
It is-
party deck. It is a
No,
football
it's
game.
a party
It
in
is
the
a
stadium, in your
football game.
seat.
In
He's
your
there to
seat.
eat
There you
5-star
go.
fried
There it
bologna
is.
sandwich and watch football.
Like,
Yeah, Matt. Sorry, we all
that's
sit up in the heated press box and with our covers and our snuggies.
and Matt's
out the damn game.
endless amounts of cookies and chips for Matt up in the press box.
The
Meanwhile,
best
Vince
thing
and I
about
are out
this
here.
year has been I know we're getting a little off topic here, but the best thing about this season, and it kind of tied in with the earlier topic we decided not to discuss, but is Jeff and how his staff is taking care of the alumni this year with football. And pretty much the entirety of my season has been taken care of through the university with one available extra ticket. And, for me, that's like the coolest thing to, younger alumni who are around my age and stuff, that's the best way to start enticing them to start coming back, keep coming to games. And eventually dudes will start pulling the trigger on season tickets, and for me, I just had to touch on that. That was like one of the coolest things this year because, we didn't really get much of anything in the past however many years.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're definitely right, but it's just it is a cool environment. I'm really hoping that the fans show out, and they have. I mean, it's just been it's been so much fun this year. Like it's like last year we went to these games and I had the same amount of fun because football is just fun all the time. But now I'm doing it with 50,000 of my friends instead of just like 3,000 of my friends. So it's a big difference. And it's been great. It's been absolutely great. Was in a new section this past week. Use my claim seats to get in, and I met a friend. Look at this, a listener of the show, former Louisville football player. Just a casual chit chat, right? Guys just being dudes, high-fiving. Introduced myself to Seth Pugh, former Louisville football defensive back, and just within seconds was like, "Oh, who are you? What are you doing? Oh, okay, you know Vince? Yeah, I know Vince." Just a great moment. Makes the family feel a lot smaller in that stadium.
Like
so shout out to
Kentucky's
South.
finest, baby.
Yeah, shout out to Seth, man. I really enjoyed getting to chat with him, and that's the benefit of moving around the stadium from time to time and getting in different seats. So, all right, Thursday night, Virginia comes in, and when you look at this Virginia team, they are a team that's had some pretty bad losses on the year. I mean, when you look at them from the top down, from just a program standpoint, I know they had that absolute tragedy last season that I imagine would be extremely hard as a head coach and for a team to come back from. But Tony Elliott really has struggled as the head coach at Virginia. They are towards the bottom, I think second to last in the ACC or maybe right in that range. And there's a good chance that this probably is the end of the road for him after a pretty short tenure. I think he's been there 2 or 3 years. But
yeah, this is only his second season.
It's just not working out. They have not been a football team that has shown much of any promise, any growth under his leadership. And when you looked at what that team was under Bronco Mendenhall, they certainly had some years where they weren't great. But what they always did was really sound foundational football. They won big games, and they always historically played it close with Louisville. And so that's kind of the element of this game that's really interesting. They come in, they've had some big wins, right? They pull off the CW upset of North Carolina and really kind of hit home the fade the CW movement. They played Miami close into overtime. They've played close games with Boston College. They played a close game with James Madison at the start of the season, NC State. So they have proven that they can play close games. But then they've gotten their ass kicked by Georgia Tech. They've gotten their ass kicked by Tennessee. They've gotten their ass kicked by Maryland, teams that, are good, but not necessarily world beaters in college football. So they come in, and I mentioned a few minutes ago, and Matt, maybe you want to talk a little bit about this. They've got some injuries that will impact them both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. They've started 2 quarterbacks this season. What's kind of the difference in what they might see between their their typical starter who's played most of the year, and then the backup who's kind of come in and played in some games, has started a couple of games on his own. What's kind of this Virginia team look like with those two guys?
So with their typical starter, Tony Muskett, he's the guy who's seen a lot more football. He's a senior. He's not as flashy, but he's a little more efficient with the football. He doesn't have like the dual threat ability that Anthony Calandria does. And Anthony Calandria is like someone who like can go out there and make like exciting electric plays. Now, Calandria is a true freshman, and he's had plenty of true freshman mistakes this season. He's had plenty of, highlight producing moments, and he's had plenty of low light producing moments. I mean, there's no other way to put it. So I think Virginia's ceiling is lifted when Calandria is in the game, but their floor is a lot lower. And I think when Muskett's in the game, their floor is a lot higher, but their ceiling might not be as high, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, it regardless, this Virginia offense doesn't have like a ton of weapons outside of one guy.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the numbers, I mean, the one guy, very impactful. I mean, to have 1,000 yards, no matter who you play for, especially when you're splitting, with the two quarterbacks coming in and out, one of which is a true freshman who just, I mean, he's like, he just gets in and he's like, nah, man, I'm just going to do whatever I want. Like, I'm running around backwards, doing twisties, throwing the ball in the end zone, taking my helmet off, getting penalties that cost us the game. Like, he is really like Johnny Football light. Light, LITE, very light.
Yeah, 5'11", 180.
Yeah,
I think I weighed that at like
he's my size,
freshman.
man. I mean, we're just about the same size. I've got a little bit of weight on him. Definitely nowhere near the athlete, but like, I mean, he's my size out there. And kudos to him, man. He's a warrior. When you watch him play, he is fun, and he's a guy who can absolutely pull a big play on you. But, you mentioned Malik Washington, 79 receptions on the year. That number feels like that can't be right. Like I'm looking at stats earlier today, and I'm just like, no. What was this last year's stats? Like, there's no way. But sure enough, 79 receptions, 1,044 yards, 6 touchdowns on the year, done a little bit of everything. They will force feed him the ball. And what's really going to be fun to watch this week is Quincy Riley versus Malik Washington. Like, I'm keeping Quincy. I'm letting Quincy be Jair here and follow him all over the field and see what they have to do with that. I know a lot of people talked about this weekend, so this is not a groundbreaking thought, but like Riley Island is a real thing in Louisville right now. Like, no one is throwing the ball to Quincy Riley because Quincy Riley is not having any of it. And it is great to see one side of the field shut down. And then with an injury like we've seen to Jarvis Brownlee, Storm Duck coming in, leads the team in tackles this past week. Like, they are plugging and playing guys, and it's because they got dudes all over the place. But shout out to Quincy Riley. That'll be really interesting to watch. And then running the football, I mean, Matt, it's just not impressive. Like, there's just nothing there really that kind of scares you when Louisville's giving up like 80 yards a game on the ground the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Hollins is a really good like goal line type back. Like when Virginia does get in like goal to go situations or like short yard situation, he has been like a solid option there. But I mean, like, that's really it in terms of like Virginia's rushing game.
Yeah, I mean, none of their guys are averaging more than, 5.3 yards isn't anything to it's definitely not bad, but nobody really setting anything, any kind of records or putting any big numbers out there. They only have just a couple of touchdowns between the two guys that aren't Mike Hollins. And Mike Hollins is one of those guys coming off of an injury that was banged up against Georgia Tech last week in that blowout. Another guy on the defensive side of the ball is James Jackson, the linebacker who stepped up. He's had a big year. He's second in the team in tackles. He's got a sack, and he has been dealing with injury as well, may not go. This is a pass rush that averages 0.89 sacks a game. There's no sack party over there. That's certainly what's going on over there.
Jack Plummer has got to be feeling very, very good. This could be like a 350 game for him, where he's taking the O-line out for steak dinners on Monday night.
Yeah, and it could be like
or
a
Saturday, Friday night, whenever.
Could be like a 350 on like 14 pass attempts. Like, I mean, like not to say like anything, like I could see them having big plays, like, guys just getting, breaking open, 70, 80 yard big screen passes or something like that. I mean, I listened in depth to the press conference, and I see a Virginia team on tape last week, like watching that Georgia Tech game and then listening to Tony Elliott, this is a team that they are not in the spot right now to go out and play strong defense. They are starting to go backwards in tackles. They missed a ton of tackles last week in that game, one-on-one tackling, group tackling. This is not a team right now that looks like they're laying it all out there on the line. That he was asked, okay, you're out of bowl contention. What are you playing for? We're playing for pride. All right, man, we're coming in there and we are kicking your teeth in and we're going to make you feel it on the football field 100%. And that's what I expect Louisville to do this week. Whether Jaws is out there, whether Isaac Garindo is out there, whether it is Mo Turner, whether it is Kewan Brown, Jack Plummer, they've got the ability to run the football. And then, you mentioned it, Vince. If this is a team that doesn't make disruptive plays, you feel pretty good that Jack Plummer can stand back there and make plays. What are you most wanting to see in a game like this, Matt and Vince? Like, is it you want to see Jack have a big game? You want to see the run game continue on? What are you kind of looking for here with this game particularly?
I love that you shook your head right there.
Yeah, Matt's very, very much giving like, just us because no one can see him.
Yeah, I know.
Very, very, very obvious.
No, I want them to follow the same MO they've followed the last couple weeks, and that not just because like they've had a lot of success, leaning on their run game and defense, but I mean this is something that Virginia has struggled with literally the entire season, whether they've been winning or losing. And I've got mad stats that get into it later, but I mean just look at the last game against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech had 300 plus rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. This is a game where I want to see Jeff Brom run it as much as he can within the confines of the offense. Have Plummer maybe come close to 20 passing attempts, and that's it. Not because Virginia's got this otherworldly secondary, because I mean they've got some decent guys in the back end, but I mean collectively it's not a great secondary. But in the front seven, Virginia's atrocious, just flat out atrocious when it comes to containing the run. So I want to see them go out with another run heavy and run focused approach, and not because it's what it has been working the last couple of weeks, which it has, but that's just what Virginia struggled with, and Louisville's kind of used to this way of operating. So I'd be kind of shocked to see them kind of deviate from that plan a little bit.
I'm going to flip sides of the ball on you, and I want to see defensively. I definitely want to see them get more like continuous pressure on whichever the two quarterbacks that they see. And in doing that, whenever you see, say that last name one more time for me, Matt, you were phenomenal at it.
Say what now?
The last
Calandria?
name. Calandria? Yes.
Calandria, yeah.
So with him, I don't want to see our ends. Jacob mentioned it earlier too, them coming too far upfield and, not being able to keep them contained. That's something you definitely want to keep an eye out for. And, everything's won up front with the front seven. And, I just want to see a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah. And here's a really fun stat for you for the last or for this season for Virginia. In 3 games where they have been blown out against Tennessee, Maryland, and Georgia Tech, they have given up 14 rushing touchdowns in those games. They have also in those games been outscored 136-44. Louisville, they should come in and win this game by 3 touchdowns or more. This should not, on paper, be a competition. Virginia is really bad at some things that Louisville is really good at. And while Virginia does have a decent, kind of offense that can make plays, obviously, I mean, when you have a 1,000-yard receiver, that's no scrub. And Matt's got some great stats here right after I wrap up talking on this point. But they have weapons. They absolutely can do some damage and hurt you if you come in lackadaisical, not focused, looking ahead to Miami, looking ahead to the college football playoff, the ACC. Letting everything get to your head over the last couple of weeks, all the fans screaming how great you are, all that can bite you in the ass if you don't come ready to play. But the verdict is out on this one, and Virginia is poo garbage. They should beat the absolute crap out of them on Thursday night in L&M Cardinal Stadium. With that being said, what everybody has waited for, Matt Stats. What we got?
And real quick before getting into my mad stats, going back to that Virginia Maryland game, I remember watching that from the hotel room in Indianapolis, because that's Louisville was playing in Indianapolis against Indiana that weekend. Virginia goes up 14-0. They score on their first 2 drives, and okay, maybe Virginia is able to rebound from getting just absolutely blasted by Tennessee the week before. And then they proceed to give up 42 unanswered. There was one point in this, I think it was in the second half, where Anthony Calandria threw a pick on not one, not two, but 3 consecutive pass attempts.
I need it. I need another quarterback that I'd want to come back to Louisville. I want that list to just keep growing, right? Riley Leonard, Sam Hartman,
That's got to be a record of some sort.
Calandria.
It's got it. Yeah, it's got to be.
It's like close to it.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, Matt. Matt stats.
Drop what you're doing and listen up. It's Matt Stats with Matt McGavick.
We've talked a lot about how bad Virginia's front seven is when it as it pertains to containing the run. I mean, when you look at just basic stats, they're allowing 180.3 rushing yards per game, which is 112th nationally and 13th in the ACC. But to really and truly put into perspective as to how bad they are at containing the run, going to my old pal Pro Football Focus, which I love, their run defense grade of 51.6 is the worst in the FBS. Not the worst in the Power 5, not the worst in the ACC, the worst in all of Division I single A college football. They are 133 out of 133. The next worst team when it comes to defending the run is San Diego State at 55.7. The next worst Power 5 team is Cal with 60.6. That's sixth worst overall. So Virginia is by far and away, from an analytical standpoint, the worst team in college football when it comes to stopping the run. So that's partially why I said earlier I want to see Jeff Brom and company just run through a motherfucker's face over and over and over and over,
yeah.
as Marshawn Lynch would say.
Yes, I love this, Matt. Cussing Matt.
And going back to your point, Vince, and how you want the defensive line and the front seven.
I love whenever you go back to Vince's points.
That too. And how you want the defense to get after the quarterback and set the tone that way. I think they're going to be able to without even hardly trying, because of Virginia's 7 offensive linemen with at least 100 blocking snaps, the only one with a offensive grade above 70, which 70 by PFF is above average, is center Brian Stevens. That is it. 4 offensive linemen have grades under 56, and 60 is average. 2 of them have grades that are just above 40, which is terrible. This group of 7 O-line, which is like their main offensive line rotation, have combined to allow 17 sacks, 8 quarterback hits, and 54 hurries. And going back real quick, that sack number, 17, 8 of them have been won from one guy alone.
Gotcha.
I need to talk to his backup.
Yeah, his backup might be the worst player.
His backup wasn't that much better. I'll say that. Okay, so that's 2 mad stats that highlight how bad Virginia is. So they're bad. That is what it is.
And for good juju, we need you to give us a stat that gives us a reason to watch the game.
So we've talked a lot about in this Virginia discussion about how good Malik Washington is. He's very good. 1,000-yard receiver, 6 touchdown passes, top 3 receiver in the ACC. Well, not only is he, like, from an analytical standpoint, one of the top receivers in the ACC, he's one of the top receivers in all of college football. His offensive grade of a flat 90 is the 3rd highest among all FBS receivers. The only 2 guys who have higher grades than them in all of college football are LSU's Malik Neighbors at 92.4 and Ole Miss's Trey Harris at 91.6. The only way I can see Louisville even remotely struggling with this game is if Malik Washington has a T.Y. Hilton performance. And that's the only avenue that I can see Virginia even coming close to, like, pulling off the upset, is if that happens, because Washington has the talent. He has the capability. I mean, on an offense like Virginia, he's getting double teams, sometimes triple teams, and he's still got 1,000 yards on the season. Like, he can break a game if Louisville allows him to.
The production is insane. I mean, you can't argue. The proof is in the pudding, as they say, right there. The numbers are, they are what they are, but it's like, you can't come in and think just because it's Virginia and they've stunk all year that you can just, take
that with Pitt.
Mental, yeah, right. And they've learned their lesson. And I've really, really enjoyed listening to this team share their perspective on what they learned from that game and what they are applying each week moving forward. I mean, you can really see them growing in real time. And that's part of the reason why you have so much faith, is because they've gotten better each of the last couple of weeks. And, against Virginia, like I said, you expect a W. You handle your business, and you're still right in the driver's seat to go to Charlotte with one more ACC game left. And that's where things really, really get interesting. I mean, this weekend you've got a really important matchup happening in Tallahassee that I would encourage everyone to tune into right after, you watch the noon games. And that's Florida State and Miami. This is one of the ones I talked about last week, that Miami has a chance to really make this funny and help Louisville out by essentially, sort of, I want to say eliminating Florida State because they are still undefeated, but certainly giving Louisville a much better chance to end up in the college football playoff. They'd still need a little bit of help, but definitely going to be interesting to watch. And so let's move into predictions, because Vince has just been waiting.
Let's move into predictions.
Yeah. Let's move into predictions.
Let's talk about who's leading, Jacob.
That's right. Thank you, Vince, for teeing me up here. I had a great co-host. And Vince, congratulations. One of your points last week, unfortunately, did not count. We went back to the drawing board and we reviewed with the folks who determined points, and you did not get a point.
For what?
I'm just kidding. No, you're in first place.
Yeah.
Congrats to you, Vince. Last week went 2-0. And I think that is the first week where one of us has gotten more points than everybody else. That we have had the same amount of points, whether it be 1 or 2 per week. So shout out to Vince.
No. This is what happens when you trust Reggie Bonifant. If you go back and you listen to the show, I said, Reggie, this is all on you. This is 100% all on you. And if you get it wrong, I'm coming back and I'm finding you. But he got it right, and this is why I've always listened to Reggie Bonifant.
Okay, well, that's certainly advice to live by. A teacher or professor might dock you points for admitting that you cheated on the test, and
he was here. He was on the show.
I'm going to ignore. Yeah, but it sounds like you just copied his answer. So, kudos to you, man. I will give you open book tests. I get to bring in one little flashcard of notes for this test, as much as I can write down.
Every
right. I wrote down that whole damn chapter on that damn flashcard. But no, Vince has taken the lead as we get into the back half and really heating up here. 10 points for Vince, 9 for the rest of us. Reggie and Grant, our guest pickers, have both gone undefeated when they've picked on the show. So shout out to our guest pickers. And this week, got the Virginia game, of course, that we'll predict, just like we do with most games, or with every game each week. And then this week we will do, what will we do? Let's do total tackles for loss for Louisville, because we talked about Virginia's offensive line being poo-poo. We tried this before with sacks, so we will see where we get in this week.
What happened with sacks? Nobody got a sack?
Yeah, I don't think anybody got a sack, man. Nobody got a sack. Vince, what do you got, man? What do you give us your score and what you're going with?
Leader's not going first. This is like
okay. We don't do
okay.
Not horse knockout.
Okay, yeah.
I need to be in the back of the line to see the jump shots first.
You need to be in the back of the line to see the jump shots. Okay, all right. I will go first. I feel pretty confident that Louisville is going to win this game convincingly. I'm battling in my head of the approach. Is it get in, get out, or is it dominate start to finish to make sure we send that message to the voters, to the ACC, to everybody? I tend to think that Jeff Brom will be a little bit more conservative with his approach this week. We did see Brock Doman come in. We did see some backups come in. There are still guys who haven't played. There are 4 games that are allotted before burning a red shirt. So I'm going to tend to lean on the lower side of the score. I was thinking like 52-10, 59-10. Like, I think this is a game where Louisville could absolutely pile on points really quickly. But I am going to go. I will go 38-6 Louisville. And I will do a total tackles for loss, which does include sacks in that. Most of them will count as sack for a tackle for loss. So I will say, let's see here. We'll say 4 sacks, and then we'll do an additional 5.5 tackles for loss. So we will go 9.5 total tackles for loss for me.
Damn.
38-6, 9.5 total tackles for loss.
I'm going Louisville 42, Virginia 7. I mean, this shouldn't even be close. I mean, the more research I did on this team, the more I was convinced that Louisville's going to win this running away. I think Virginia scores like a garbage touchdown late, but like this should be settled by like midway through the third quarter if it takes that long. And I think Louisville's going to go. I'll price is right your ass. I say 9 tackles for loss.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. 9.5, but 9.5, this actually can happen. It's not an over under here, like it, where you got to land on one. 9.5 can happen. All right, Mr. King. We bow down, waiting for your prediction. The champ is here. We are all like, you would be walking in, and like, I can imagine you and your business as usual. So like, you're not coming in like a full costume in an MMA match. You're probably coming in with just your gear ready to go. So no pomp and circumstance for you. You're just here to do business. So give us the score. Give us the total tackles for loss. What do you got?
Well, I wanted to say this for Duke week, but I'm going to go 41-0. I'm going to say the defense pitches a shutout. And I think opposite of you, Jacob, because of the reasoning of them getting so many points piled on them, that Tech game and other games previously where teams have just piled on and went on these incredible runs. Ron English, don't have my back here. I'm going to get some points for a shutout, all right? I'm finally calling it. I'm calling a goose egg.
That would be impressive. That would be their third shutout of the year.
Second against FBS opponent. Yeah.
Yeah, second in the conference.
This is a team that you can definitely do that against. Though.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I'm not saying this against Ole Miss in 2019.
Right.
Oh yeah.
This is actually like you being serious. Like this is the score. What do you have? Did you give me a tackles for loss total number? Did you? Yeah. What do you got there? Because if you're going,
I'll go 8.5.
8.5. Okay, so we're really playing this one close.
Really,
no, like room for any gaps here. One of us is going to be right, and then everybody else can be wrong. Or at least that's what we hope. It could be 4 tackles for loss, and that would be really on par with what we've done all year long.
I don't care if they have 4 tackles for loss, 1 tackle for loss, 15 tackles for losses. Just go out there and handle Virginia like you're supposed to go out there and handle Virginia.
Yeah, a win is a win. That's the goal. But I will say, Vince, we got to give you a little shout out here because we know for sure that every week, whether you're on staff, a player, whether you're a fan, a Trinity football guy, you give your all for the Ville. Like that's just who you are. It's in your DNA. You will always do that, whether you are 85, whether you are 35. But I don't think that fans appreciate enough what you're doing to your gut at a young age, consuming the breakfast that you consume every weekend.
Josh Hart has his run, and I have my thing. So
yeah, you certainly have your run, no doubt. Because, and I just want to throw this out there, right? You really started a movement within our group, and we're trying to get it to catch on. You got to convince folks about the 5-star fried bologna sandwich. It's certainly not the most appetizing of choices.
But if you were like, few things better in this world than a fried bologna sandwich just between 2 pieces of white bread, and even better with if you can put some mustard on there. Like now you're really cooking. But
oh my god,
the way I told Presley last week, I don't know if you heard, Jacob, but where I messed up was not getting the chicken sandwich as well.
Yeah. You never can leave your significant other hanging, Vince. That's a life lesson. That is a man that has been married for 7 years and has been with the same person now for almost 12, 13 years. You got to always come through. They are counting on you. And even if they're not, you put your best foot forward, man, and it goes a long way, Vince. That's the truth. There's life advice for you, buddy.
Back on 5-star, they've got good breakfast burritos too.
I believe it. But again, the sacrifice that you're making in order to eat this breakfast, we can't thank you enough.
Everybody's discounting the 4 shots of espresso that they have in the mornings too.
Yeah, and the raw coffee that you drink when you don't have filters. I believe you do now. No, I know your mom took care of you. So.
My mother heard that and said,
here's a full Costco package for you, Vincent.
My mother heard that and saw me at my sister's volleyball game and said, I just ordered you some coffee filters from Amazon.
I believe it, man. Always
Like,
taking care of you, and that's exactly why we love her, man. That's the type of mom behavior that we need. Always coming through with the little things. Like when my father-in-law passed away, like no, not just a little like Uber or like a Uber Eats gift card, not just like a little like flour. Now here's a full ass meal for 52 people that is just an Italian dinner. Here you go. Like that's just the way that your mom operates. So we
and
appreciate
it's so
that.
easy. You know what's funny is like you will look at that as like it's hard to do,
Mhm.
right? Like it's so easy to go get some canned tomatoes, onions, and garlic, and just basil, salt, pepper, garlic powder, tomato paste. That's really all you need. I
Yeah.
mean,
So Vince is
my family was poor when they came here. That's what a lot of people don't. A lot of Italians were poor when they came to this country. So we just, it was mainly just tomatoes, salt and pepper if we could afford it.
and then some
There's no onions,
gabagool.
there's no garlic, there's no
Gabagool.
basil. Yeah. My Halloween costume went as an Italian guy, and I did go to the bar with gabagool in my pocket.
I am so
swear to
here for
God,
this,
you can
man.
ask
I need the
my wife.
picture, dude. I need the
You can
picture of
ask
that.
Eddie.
All right. Well, we will get out of here on that and let the folks who are listening to the show get on about their day. They certainly now know about Italian tradition and why Italian food, I guess, is so good. So thank you, Vincent, for that, and thank you
We
to
built
the
this
Lococo
country.
family. That's
We
right,
built
man.
this country.
One
Christopher
gabagool at a
Columbus is
time.
a hero in this household.
Please don't cancel us. Please don't cancel us.
It's not a kid. It's a Sopranos quote.
I know. I'm kidding. All right. We will get out of here on that from the Pink Seats podcast. Follow us anywhere that subscribe anywhere that you get your shows from. Follow us on YouTube at Pink Seats Pod on Twitter. We can't thank you all enough for supporting us this season. And we will roll into the weekend hoping for another W. And next week, I believe we will have a 2-pack of shows. We'll see how schedules shake out. But hopefully with the game on Thursday, we can get some more content built into the week as we go into Miami next week. We'll have a correspondent on the ground in Miami, one Presley Meyer, making the road trip down there. A little family vacation action. I'm hoping that we can get some live reports from South Beach. Like I would love to see Presley just like drinking like one of those like grenade type drinks. I mean, I know you would get those in like New
He's
Orleans,
in Miami.
like,
He's gonna drink a Cuba Libre.
yeah, and needs like a little like a exactly right. So we will be back next week from the Pink Seats podcast. Until then, go Cards.